Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to be looking at point-slope form of a line today. We're going to be talking about how to write an equation in point-slope form. So previously we have already talked about point-slope form, but we were using it to graph, and really we were just converting it and manipulating it to get slope-intercept form. So if you are given information, sometimes it's easier to write your equation in point-slope form. Sometimes it's easier to write in slope-intercept form. Okay, so when you're given a slope and a y-intercept, well then you'll want to use slope-intercept form. But sometimes you might be given a point and a slope, or 2 points. If you're given 2 points, you can find the slope and then you can use point-slope form. Okay, so it depends on what kind of information you're given to what kind of equation you want to write. So anytime you're given either 2 points and or just 2 points, or if you're given a slope and a point, then it's easier to write it in point-slope form. Now, if we want to write it in point-slope form, we're given a slope here and we are given a point. Okay, so we know that the equation is going to be y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, the point that's given to you is x1, y1. Okay, so from there all we need to do is take these values and plug them in for y1, m, and x1. So we've got y minus, this is -7, so I'm going to put it in parentheses, equals m, we know our m is 1/3, times x minus 6. Okay, minus a negative is going to make it become a positive, so y plus 7 equals 1/3 times x minus 6. And now we are in point-slope form. And that's it. From there, if we wanted to graph, we could either use, well, we're not going to graph. We're going to, typically we would manipulate it to look to be slope-intercept form. Okay. Now, again, it's asking for point-slope form, but this time we're given 2 points. Okay, so we know how to find slope, right? Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so if we label our points x1 and y1, x2 and y2. Oops. Okay, once we find our slope out, we'll have our slope and a point, right? So once we figure the slope out, we can use x1, y1, and whatever our slope is to write it in point-slope form. So let's plug in our values real quick. y2 is 4 minus y1 is 6 over x2 is 8 minus x1 is 16. 4 minus 6 gives me -2. 8 minus 16 gives me -8. So my negatives cancel out, and 2 divided by 8 simplifies to 1/4. Okay, now that I know my slope, all I have to do is plug in to my point-slope formula. Okay, we know x1 and y1. y1 is 6 We know our slope now, it's 1/4. And we know x1 is 16. And there is their equation. All right. Now, if it's given to you on a graph, okay, you can pick any pretty point on the graph, okay? One of them just happens to be labeled here, okay? There's a pretty point right there. So I'm going to use that point. It's -1, -2, -3, -4, -4, -1. So there's my point. My x1, y1 is -4, -1. Okay? Now, can I count my slope on my graph? This is a very decent graph. So if I look at this, it goes up 1, up 1, over 2. So my slope is going to be 1/2. Okay? My slope was 1/2. So from there, all I have to do is y minus, my y1 is -1, equals, my slope is 1/2, times x minus a -4. Okay? A minus a negative here makes this become a positive, so I'll have y plus 1 equals 1/2 times x. A minus times a negative will make that become +4. And there's my equation. All right. There is another form. It's called standard form. Okay? We've already talked about it a little bit. We know that x and y are variables. We know a, b, and c are integers. We know x and y must be on the left side, a must be positive, and we don't want any fractions. Okay? So looking at the example they gave us here, it says convert to standard form. Well, we know the first thing we need to do is x and y both have to be on the left side. So my x, my coefficient, is 7/2. So I'm going to add 7/2 x to both sides. Okay? So now I have 7/2 x plus y equals 14. Now, we can't have fractions, so the only way to get rid of a fraction is to multiply that fraction by its denominator, and the denominator will cancel out. So, if I need to multiply 7/2 x by its denominator by 2, if I multiply that term, I have to multiply every term in my entire equation. All the terms have to be multiplied by 2. Okay? So, 2 times 7/2 x will leave me with 7x, because those 2's will cancel out. 2 times y will leave me with plus 2y. And 2 times 14 will leave me with 28. And that is in standard form. That's it for today, guys. Thanks. Have a great day.